Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, joined by my co-host, Tyson Gentry, who's back in the saddle today. Tyson, it's great having you back, my brother.
Do I look lighter? I'm about 3 ounces lighter after the surgery, so I'm walking on cloud nine right now, really.
And Tyson, for those watching on YouTube's leaning back. He's not all the way able to sit up, but he's grinding it out for us today here. He knew that, and we'll get into it in money making time later. He knew like he needs to help me out here because I got absolutely smoked last week, and we'll get through it. And so he's hoping that he graces me with some good luck and we turn this thing around.
I'm sending you a life raft today, and I promise, if make it to the end of the episode, because there will be at least one, as there always is, where I'm going to look at Brad and say, "What?" and then he's going to say, "Nah, dude, I like him this week," and it's going to continue. Eventually, he's going to break the cycle, and we're going to be sitting here looking stupid. But I'm back to help him at least this week.
Well, we'll see when we get to money making time. So definitely stick around for that. And if I continue to suck like this, I mean, just go ahead and fade me. That's for sure. But Tyson, let's get into the week 4 recap because coming off of that weekend, that was the biggest game in college football that we've had to date. I think it may be, as it works out, the biggest weekend of this season as well. We'll see, kind of how the matchups lay out. But I mean, this was a huge college football weekend. And I mean, there were a ton of ranked games, a ton of ranked matchups that we hadn't seen before. And we're not going to go through all of them. I mean, we have like 4 that we really want to focus on and kind of touch on. But I mean, just quickly here. I mean, Washington, they continue to roll. UCLA's offense looked horrible against Utah. LSU, your boys, you told me they're losing that game. They barely escaped against Arkansas. Washington State, they put a beat down on Oregon State before they came back. North Carolina's offense continues to roll. Miami didn't fall into the trap. Tennessee took care of business. So a bunch of different ranked teams who played unranked teams were able to take care of business and stay on top of the ranks here. But Tyson, that's not what we're going to focus on. We got to get into the 4 big ones that happened. And the first one being Florida State just completely escaped Clemson, man.
So it's funny, like, we're not going to talk about the ranked teams that beat the unranked teams, but we're going to lead off with a ranked team beating an unranked team.
Well, first of all, I couldn't believe it. And I actually didn't realize that Clemson wasn't unranked until I actually went through ESPN. I was like, oh, wow, that's right. I forgot they weren't. But yeah, I mean, fair point. Clemson's now 2-2, Tyson. They lost in overtime against Florida State. One, they didn't trail in this game, or Florida State never led in this game until that overtime victory. It was completely absurd how Clemson blew that game. Completely absurd. And the game obviously flipped when Klubnik got lit up and the defender took that in for a fumble 6 recovery. But this is the thing here, Tyson. We've been kind of looking at Clemson like they've been falling off this peak, falling out of the top of their perch, and then all of a sudden they're sitting at 2-2, 0-2 in conference with losses to Duke and Florida State.
So take your Clemson ACC championship tickets to your nearest bonfire or a lighter or whatever you have because it's over. It's done. Were you on Clemson
for the season long?
Okay. Because I was on Florida State. I thought you were on Florida State with me for some reason.
No,
that would have made this victory that would have made that a lot sweeter. But look, dude, there's a lot of issues in Clemson, and people want to say Dabo doesn't want to hit the transfer portal, and it's the new culture and the NIL stuff, and Clemson doesn't want to deal with that. It's not the reason. Reason is the same. Like, Garrett Riley pissed the game away right down his leg. Klubnik doesn't check to the pressure, gets lit up. They were driving to at least go up 10, probably 14 at that point in the game, ice it, all things over. And then you get a redo, Brad. A 3rd and 1. What do? Throw a screen pass to a wide receiver after you've been running up the middle for 4 or 5 yards a pop for the better part of, the last half an hour of game time? The issue in Clemson is the coaching. And that's been the issue on the offensive side of the ball for the better part of the last 5 years. It's just when you don't have these, like, quote-unquote generational guys, Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson and these guys walking through the doors that can mask a lot of that. You go get somebody from TCU. It was a fun offense last year. Everything was clicking. It was great. TCU was really good last year, but they were really weird. Clemson doesn't need to be really weird to win football games. Does Nick Saban get cute? Does Kirby Smart in Georgia, do they get cute? No. This is Clemson, like, reaching for, some sort of, like, we have to land a haymaker here. When you're the one that's been recruiting 5-star kids, I don't want to hear about transfer portal when you have 4 and 5 stars walking through the door every single recruiting cycle. What the hell does bringing in a new quarterback from Wake Forest do? Sam Hartman would have been cool. Kid Klubnik was supposed to be the man coming out. And so you're supposed to have trust in that kid. But at a certain point, when none of this talent reaches the level that we're expecting outside of the defensive line, and some of the linebackers and those guys are special. But look in the mirror, man. It's not an NIL issue.
No, and you're right. Like Dabo said, the reason why they avoid the transfer portal, reason why they have this culture is because he wants their type of guys in there. He wants the people who's not going to leave. And quite honestly, the people who go to Clemson, the kids who go to Clemson, Tyson, they're not looking elsewhere. Like they're not like, oh, I'm sitting on the bench. What's this coach going to offer me? Or man, I'd love to play plays elsewhere. They're like, no, we're going to work and practice and we're going to stay. And they've been able to build an impressive culture in Clemson. It's just now it doesn't feel like it's good enough, right? Like you lost to Duke. The offense was horrible. Now Florida State. I mean, we always knew if Florida State can get things rolling, like that level of program reaches heights. And I don't want to say that Clemson can't because they've won 2 national championships. But in this day and age, I mean, but that was when that's when Florida State was down. That's when Miami was down. So a lot of these teams in the ACC were down and didn't challenge Clemson. But if they're going to have to run in through a schedule like Alabama's been doing, where it's a test every single weekend, it's much tougher to win. And I think we're finally seeing that for Clemson. And I thought Klubnik was good, actually, like really good at times in this game against Florida State. But there's still some moments where I'm like, God, what is happening with this offense for Clemson? Like, they were running the ball down Florida State's throats. Like, why go away from that? Like, I don't understand the decisions and the desire to get away from something that's working. Like, just run it until they can stop it and then counter off of that. And like you said, I think that was the TCU thing coming into play. Like, oh, we need to get cute here because we haven't done it yet. It's like, there's no need for it.
I mean, it's a different level of clunkiness with the Clemson offense than it is with these other top-level programs. Like, Florida State's offense was bad, like flat-out bad for most of that football game. They just were able to hang around and stay in the game, and they didn't run like they didn't need anything ridiculous. It was, hey, here's Jordan Travis. Here's 2 of the better receivers in the country. Let's go make something happen. And that's what they did, and the defense stepped up when the defense needed to step up. They made the play of the season at this point, as far as I'm concerned, because if you're looking ahead on the schedule, how Florida State doesn't make the college football playoff right now, it would take some major upsets. I mean, they're walking to the end of the season right now undefeated, like skipping basically. Clemson needs everything to go right. This is slowly turning into a 2 or 3 team race in the ACC. It sounds an awful lot like Clemson's off to the Big 12 or the Big 10 or somewhere else fairly soon. That was one of the reports that came out this morning. Good luck.
Florida State, before we put a bow on this, I still have my questions about them. I mean, I really do. Like 20 rushes, 22 yards. Oh, man, that's not going to be good enough when you step up in class here. And I know they were able to push around LSU, but there's some question marks about that LSU defense. Like if they have to run into some of these other teams, I still have some question marks about Florida State. And I don't know. I know you're much more high on Florida State as a whole than I am, but they're literally, I mean, both these teams could be sitting at 3-1 as we stand here today if it wasn't for some boneheaded mistakes by Clemson and just things that bounced in favor of Florida State. But at the same time, that's college football.
They're not.
Well, here's one that wasn't in doubt. Oregon just absolutely dominated Colorado. And here's the unfortunate thing that's come out of this, Tyson, and because I want to be extremely clear about something here. Colorado's turned into this folklore team, and it's been making their rounds on like these national TV shows. Normally we don't talk about that stuff on here, but I think it's pertinent. Where they were over exceeding expectations to start the season. But everybody had this game. Everybody who actually follows college football had this game circled like, okay, this will be the test for Colorado because they don't match up well in the trenches. Like if they can perform against Oregon, okay, then we can actually look at them as a legitimate team. Like this isn't Colorado State. This isn't soft TCU. Like this is a real football game that they're going to have to show up for. And Oregon stomped them. And it wasn't because Dan Lanning had it out for prime. It wasn't because, oh, yeah, all these other ancillary things that you're just hearing on social media and all this other crap. It's because Oregon's bigger, Oregon's faster, and Oregon's stronger than the Colorado program right now, who I will remind everybody was 1-11 last year. That's not what it's at Oregon. And so I don't want to hear, oh, you wanted to embarrass Coach Prime. Because Tyson, If Dan Lanning wanted to embarrass Coach Prime, they would have scored legitimately 80 points like they did against Portland State. So it's just ridiculous, the discourse around this game. And then people are actually offended by Dan Lanning's pregame comments. The guy's job is to fire up his football team, man. Like, it's not to be like, woo, yeah. In my locker room, I really like Coach Prime, and he's doing a good job at Colorado. That's for the post game. That's for the presser, like Dan Lanning did. When you're getting ready to go to war, you got to fire up your team. And he knew exactly what he was doing, and he got his team ready to play. And they dominated from the jump, 35-0 at half.
Are people actually upset with Dan Lanning? I haven't seen this.
Yeah, people are like pissed.
It's the same people probably that are loving all the all-access stuff to the Colorado locker room. Getting fired up to run through walls for Coach Prime's pregame speeches, but when Dan Lanning gives one, it's an issue. That's funny. We said it after week 1. Like, this is a really fun story. Losing by 40 doesn't hinder the fact that Colorado is already ahead of schedule, right? Like, they beat Nebraska and Colorado State this year. If you changed out Deion Sanders for any other head coach in America, pretty much, like with the exception of a select few, people would be over the moon about like the start that Colorado's had. And it's, of course, you lose to Oregon. Oregon's better than you. They're going to be better than you. For the entirety of Deion Sanders' tenure there, Oregon will be better. I know he said, you better get me now because you're not going to get me later or whatever. Okay, sure. After week 1, the biggest issue I had with Colorado was when Shedeur Sanders said there's not much difference between the FCS and the FBS as far as players. I watch a ton of FCS football, like a disgusting amount. That's kind of – I'm from Montana, so that's what we have out here, and you get pretty familiar with it. Did those offensive and defensive lines look like they were even in the same fucking division?
Oh, my God, dude.
Is that not the difference?
Mismatch.
Like,
that is the difference, right? It's the trenches.
Who cares about the wide receivers and there's wide receivers all over the NFL right now from small schools that are dominating. There are defensive players from small schools that are playing really well in the NFL. You got a select few North Dakota State offensive linemen. You have a select few defensive linemen from these smaller schools. Because if you're 6'5", 240 pounds in high school, Brad, what happens? You're at least getting a look. And so when these kids are coming from, and Jackson State's a good program too, it's a huge difference to get there and be able to start there versus going against a team with legitimate national championship aspirations, who have these guys that have been waiting in the wings for 4 years or are going to be hearing their name called in the first 2 days of the NFL draft and just rolling them out and playing. If you thought anything else was going to happen, I actually – I'm a little disappointed that Oregon didn't keep it rolling because I did want to see, like, what is this thing? Like, if they're actually upset about this, what does this get to? And then it was like the backups are in and we don't care. But they did go for it 4th and goal earlier, and I thought, he's going to go for 100. Basically, the end of the story here is, like, if you ever thought they were going to sniff Oregon or USC this year, you were outside your mind.
I think the expectations coming in with this team's going to win 3 games. Like, it was awesome. They got 3 right now. Apparently, their new win total is 5.5. So they're setting it at Vegas themselves. Are setting it up. Hey, they get bowl eligible, which would be awesome. Like, nobody in their right mind thought Colorado was playing in a bowl game this year. They beat Nebraska, who's a mess. They beat TCU, who that defense is a joke, and they are coming off of a national championship game where they lost basically all their playmakers. And Colorado State, who, let's be honest, Tyson. If that was a Colorado team that's going to get the talent or play another Pac-12 school, they get run out because it's just not a different level.
2-minute drill to beat Colorado State.
So those are 3 awesome wins, and like you said, they're ahead of schedule. Like, there were some of those games that people thought Colorado wouldn't win. Well, they won them, but then, like you said, they ran into the boogeyman. They played Oregon, who is an established football program at a high level, at a major conference in the Pac-12, and they rolled through those players. Just roll through them. And so that's the reality of the situation here. Like, it's not mean. It's not, they're mad at Deion. All these coaches are giving playbooks out about how to beat him. No, the playbook on how to beat him is you run through them because you're bigger than them. Like, if you have the ability to do that, that's what these coaches are going to do. Like, it's not complicated if you follow college football. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, at this point at Colorado, it's like I don't want to say JV version, but it's a lower level of what we saw with most Lincoln Riley teams. So, like, if you thought that a really bad version of this USC team could beat Oregon, then good for you. But look, dude, they're fun and they're exciting, and I really do hope they get bowl eligible because I want to see them play Kansas. I think that would be a really fun matchup for us.
Yeah, that would be fun. And I'm rooting for Prime, man. We've been on here. We were like saying this is going to work. I think it's actually going to work in Colorado. And when they go to the Big 12 and they get back to like recruiting that part of the country, I think it could escalate a little bit quicker for them. But we'll see. I mean, that's down the future. So they have a big matchup against USC, which we will preview upcoming here soon, Tyson. But let's keep continuing because Alabama quieted Ole Miss, and this was an ugly, ugly football game with Alabama winning 24-10. Scoring 18 points in the second half. Ole Miss only mustering up 3. And, you know, every single year coming into this, it's always about can Lane Kiffin beat his old mentor, Nick Saban? He's got something up his sleeve for him. And every single year, it always fizzles out. Like, it just never changes. And I think it's because Nick Saban knows what Lane wants to do on offense. And, yeah, Jackson Dart, 244 yards and a pick and no touchdowns.
Yeah, one of the worst interceptions of the week, too.
So I think the reason why we have quiets is because there was some hype around Ole Miss, like, oh, if they win this game, they could win the West. And it came back to reality because Ole Miss, this is what they do. They come up short in every single big spot every single year.
You can set your watch to it at this point. Ole Miss will start the season on a hot streak. It's going all the way back to like when Ed Ogeron was the coach. They're going to start off 4-0, 6-0, whatever it is, and they're going to run into another big dog in the West. And every time they lose, like the times they win are the seasons that are already lost. Like when Chad Kelly beats Alabama, it's for pride. It's not to get to the BCS national championship game. Lane Kiffin, to me, it sucks to see. Honestly, like I'm not a huge Lane fan. I know there's a lot of really big Lane Kiffin fans out there, which like I get he's a cool guy and seems like it's fun to watch football. How many times are we going to excuse this dude for having a great first half against a top 10, top 15 opponent and having a horrible second half? Like how many times does it has to happen where we're just basically like rewatching a TV show on Hulu or Netflix or wherever because you know, like I'm watching that game. And Ole Miss is winning, and Bama looks like bad. And I could have sworn it was 2010 because it was like they're just going to run the shit out of the ball. There's nothing Ole Miss can do about it. Ole Miss is going to have a turnover on downs or throw interception or fumble, and Bama's going to win this football game. And, you know, all those things happen in rapid succession.
It's the reality of the Ole Miss program, Tyson. Like they can't get to that next level. For whatever reason it is, you know, is it Lane? I mean, it was happening before he got there. It just feels like now there's more attention on it.
It's. I don't know if you could have Nick Saban or Kirby Smart there. I think this is just Ole Miss football juju. Like the teams are good. The teams are good. Like
put NFL players in there all the time.
Yeah, and they just like the ceiling seems to be third in the West. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's strange. So Alabama takes care of business against Ole Miss. Not really surprising considering.
Can Bama win like this going forward all year? Like, can this be a recipe for like a double-digit win football team?
Well, I don't think they can get the double digits now because I don't think they're going to beat LSU. I'll just put it out there. I mean, this defense is actually kind of a lot better than I thought for Bama.
They're good.
So maybe they can slow down LSU's offense, but I don't see it. You know, like this, it's bad. Like they have to figure something out. Now, Milroe in this game, 17 of 21 for 225. And then, you know, it kind of looked good in spots, but 24 points, it just doesn't feel like they had in the past. You know, just not the explosive plays, not the wide open wide receivers and things like that. And so I think that's the concern that you have. But I would say no right now to answer your question directly.
No, I'm with you on that. And actually, like Milroe's best game because the receiver showed up. Like this was the first time in the last 2 years where it was like, damn, that guy's talented and he plays wide receiver at Alabama.
Tyson, this one made me sick. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I legitimately almost threw. I just could not believe that Notre Dame lost that game. Like I tweeted out Notre Dame when they turned them over on downs or whatever.
After the luck you had last week, you didn't have the foresight to think I'm going to jinx this right now if I send this out.
Well, Penn State dominated Iowa, so I was feeling pretty good. I was like, okay.
That's true.
I mean, Penn State's going to get a huge statement win in the whiteout, and Ohio State's going to go down. I can't believe this. And, of course, it couldn't happen because Notre Dame just They're unlucky. Like, that's what it is. Like, they cannot beat Ohio State. They haven't beat them since before World War II. And it continued again. Like, this was a game they should have won. Like, we got to
was
talk
only
about
16.
So, yeah, there's a lot to come out of this I want to get your opinion on. Let's kind of go through rapid fire. We know what happened in the game. Both teams look pretty bad. I don't know about these teams going forward, national championship wise, but what'd you think of Ryan Day in the post game?
I loved it.
You didn't think he made himself look like a complete ass?
No. If I'm Ryan Day, I'm looking for everybody, and I just won that emotional game on the road like that. Fuck you. That's what I'm saying to everybody I can get my hands on. You had doubts about us? Oh, we're not tough enough? 1-yard touchdown run to win the game.
Well, I mean, they almost didn't get it because there's against a 10-man defense. I mean,
yeah,
geez, it's ridiculous.
It wasn't exactly man-on-man football there. That was, and the excuse that Marcus Freeman had, I thought was very interesting, where he said he didn't want to take a penalty there, which I can see.
Matter.
But like, if you would have stopped them, right, and then you get the penalty, then it's an issue. But also, they're on the 6-foot line, so if you do get a penalty and they move to the 3-foot line, who cares? Because they ran the same play. Same play twice in a row, directly at that side, and you think, let's just run it with 10. It's like, no matter what you say about the guy, I think he's done a good job. But that was brutal. I know we have more rapid fire questions here, Brad. One thing that's kind of been kicking around my brain lately, I've had a lot of time to think over the last week. Is this almost better for Notre Dame as far as trying to make the college football playoff?
No, I think this killed them.
I think this is better.
I think Ohio State might lose twice this season. That's
true. If that happens, then it's worse.
Yeah. But dude, this Ohio State team's not good.
I don't know. They didn't look good.
Kyle McCord cannot throw, man. 21 of 37. I get like QBR 89.5. You watch that game, that's an 89.5 QBR. Inaccurate. Tyson, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's the freaking best receiver in the country. Now, he did get hurt. 3 for 32?
Yeah, Ibuka too. And neither one of them were like special the way that you expect them to be. I thought they were going to give Ibuka the worst completion on the field call I think I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, my God. I was going to sue the NCAA. I couldn't believe that. He dribbled it. He looked like Chris Paul. But no, those are going to be my two questions, was the Marcus Freeman situation with, just the defense and everything after that. That's unacceptable. And I like Marcus Freeman.
Me too.
I think he's going to do a good job there. And then the other thing, Ryan Day. I mean, what an ass! What an ass, dude. You're gonna let Lou Holtz, really? That's what you're gonna do after that? Like, the guy's a respected coach across the country. Like, here's the thing. I didn't like Ryan Day before. If Ohio State does fire him, I don't pray for me to lose her job or I'm happy. This one might be the closest I'll be to celebrating. Because this guy needs a taste of humble pie, man. I want Penn State just to kick their ass in front of their home fans.
If Jim Tressel came out before the Penn State-Ohio State game and said Penn State's not physical enough to beat Ohio State, and there was a quarterback sneak to win the game, and James Franklin gets on the mic and says, who's not physical now? You're going to take issue with that?
No, because we're underdogs. You know what I mean? Like, Penn State is the underdog in this situation. Ohio State runs roughshod over everybody in college football, and then they go and play little old Notre Dame, and they're bullying old man Lou Holtz. It's ridiculous. And he has the gall to say Ohio versus everybody. This is the first team that's gotten in, I believe, it's still in college football playoff. Well, I guess not anymore, but they were the first team to get into the college football playoff who didn't win the freaking conference after the committee came out and said we're going to prioritize conference football conference winners. So I don't want to hear it from Ohio State.
It must be tough to have graduated from tiny state college where there's no history there, and didn't just float by on reputation for a number of years. With get out of here, dude.
Oh gosh, God, I hate Ohio State. I hate Ohio State.
I'm getting a T-shirt. I'm getting an Ohio versus everybody T-shirt.
Oh, man. Hopefully, so then we can burn it when they lose to Penn State this year. I'm knocking on wood. But what else did you think about coming out of that game? I mean, we kind of touched on the three main ones that I thought. I don't think these two teams are championship programs, just based on what I saw in that game. Now, defensively, I was impressed with Notre Dame, sure. And defensively, Ohio State, they're really good on defense. Like they slowed down this offense that Notre Dame has, and but beyond that, just nothing really stood out to me.
No, I think Notre Dame was exactly kind of who I thought they were. Sam Hartman had some really good moments. Had some moments that you've seen, over the last 3 years of his career, where it's like, that's not great. But you didn't think he was on the verge of losing in the game there. Ohio State's defense is a supremely talented, better athlete than Notre Dame at every position that matters pretty much on the football field. Notre Dame loses these games, I think, is kind of my main takeaway there, because it was like they're going to ice this thing, and then it's Notre Dame. If Ohio State gets the ball back, they're going to win. And even when it felt like Ohio State didn't want to get in the end zone with some of those play calls coming down the field, Notre Dame still lost it. I know that you got your I hate Ohio State thing out of the way. I'm not going to touch so much on Ohio State. I didn't think they looked great. But if you're an Ohio State fan, I think you're encouraged winning a game like that in that atmosphere, a close game, something that Ohio State doesn't have to deal with very much. It was interesting to see the way they rallied.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we this is the first time we really had to touch on a lot of big games that happened from last week. So we're running, I wouldn't necessarily say long, but we had to get those thoughts out because, those teams, a lot of them are going to have national championship aspirations here. Tyson, let's move into week 5. And we're going to do a preview, and we're going to start with the game happening on Friday. But there's not as good of a slate, but Tyson, there's still a ton of games going on that matter. Kansas, Texas, we're not going to preview that. Stay around for money making time. Tyson has a play in that game. Who else was I looking at? Oh, Iowa State, Oklahoma. I have a play in that game, but Oklahoma's actually looked good. South Carolina, Tennessee. We know what South Carolina did last season. So that's a revenge game there. Alabama goes to Mississippi State. That's an interesting one. So there's some games that I think you can pay attention to this weekend. But Tyson, let's start with I clicked this too early. Let's start with the Friday game. Utah at Oregon State. Oregon State is coming off a game where they got, pretty much run out of the gym.
They got blown out and had a close loss at the same time.
At the same time, it was unthinkable. They tried to backdoor that game so hard, it couldn't get it done. And then Utah, the question mark for them is Cam Rising. Is he going to play? Is he not? Because without him, that offense is hard to watch, but they're still physical and they still have a good defense. What are you looking forward to in this one?
Well, this is my favorite kind of football game, especially college football game. These two teams are looking in the mirror at each other, and it's just first one to flinch loses because they want to do the same things. They both want to establish their physical presence both on offense and on defense, and they just want to bully you. I don't think that there's anybody better in the country at doing that than Kyle Whittingham and staff at Utah and what they've been able to do over the last 5 years. It's awesome. But Oregon State is here. They've been bullying people for the last 2 years. I think they won 8 games in 8 games, or 8 games, 9 games. But if you weren't paying attention, that team was showing up to play everybody, and they just wanted a fist fight. And they go out, they get their quarterback in the transfer portal. Everybody's excited. I've done my fair share of crapping on old DJU, but look, dude, this is going to be a knockdown, drag them out. If you are trying to introduce somebody to the sport of football, probably don't start Friday night.
Unless they like old school stuff, then you could be like, yeah, this is what it used to be like. You line up under center and you just bash your heads into each other.
If he's reading the newspaper, you can show him this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm excited for this one. It's going to be fun on Friday night. A big game on Fox at 9 p.m. too. So this is going to be a good one. So, Tyson, let's move into this. USC goes to Colorado, and this is still getting big hype here because obviously it's Colorado. But I think for me personally, when I look at this one, this is a much better matchup for Colorado in this game because USC's defense, while we still have questions, they're not as big and they're not as physical as Oregon. I think Colorado is actually going to be able to move the ball in this game. I think they're going to have a much better showing, especially at home. Now, this is a noon game, so 9 a.m. body clock time for the kids out there. So that's an interesting kind of little wrinkle to this. But I think this is going to be much more favorable, I'll say, for Colorado. Now, do I think they're going to win? No, I think there's a possibility they get smoked. But I actually think they're going to have a much better showing offensively.
oh, this is going to be, I said it when we were talking about Colorado. Like, this is the worst version of USC. Ironically, who's probably the best suited defense to play in the country if you want to try to emulate their own offense? USC's defense sucks.
No.
It's no better. It might be worse. It might be the worst defense in college football, dude. Like,
I don't know if
it's
it's
not
worse than last year. That was so bad.
Dude, I think the numbers say that it's worse than last year. Watching it, I don't think it's worse than last year, but dude, it's razor thin. It's real close. This defense is bad. What does Colorado want to do? They want to throw the shit out of the football. Arizona State was running wild. They were doing whatever they wanted, basically, for the most part. And Arizona State's not a good offense. Colorado's not going to run Wildcat the way that Arizona State was able to and kind of be physical. That was a big bugaboo, I thought, for USC on Saturday night. But this is, the over-under is at 74.5, and it's got me thinking.
Yeah, no, that's such a big number. Crazy. All right, I'm gonna defer to you here. LSU at Ole Miss. Now LSU escaped the game against Arkansas. Like, they always play close games, so I think it's hard to take a look at that one. But they're going on the road, and Ole Miss is coming back, and they pull themselves up off the mat after leaving Tuscaloosa heartbroken. What do you think about this one?
Dude, this LSU team has no juice, none. They don't.
The offense is good.
They don't look impressive to me even then, though. Like, the offense is really good at times, and then there are times where it's like, holy shit, this is supposed to be a college football playoff contender. I'm a big LSU fan. I always have been. I always will be. This is the only opportunity that they have to this point in the season because of the way they kind of rolled over and died against Florida State to show that you even have the physicality necessary to play with Georgia in the SEC, to play with Alabama if that's the way they want to play football. Ole Miss is a good opportunity for that. Judkins might run for 240 yards. That's not out of the question. If Ole Miss gets rolling, this LSU team's going to have a hard time stopping them. The offense is going to probably keep them in the game, but if it's a close game, I just don't know if these guys care.
That's interesting. Judkins has been not as good as he was last year. It's been weird.
Rocket Sanders got hurt and disappeared a little bit. I mean, our boy KJ Jefferson was impressive on Saturday, but I don't know. This is your boy Brian Kelly. This is a big one.
Yeah, it's a huge one, and he normally wins these games. This is
loser out, dude. This is loser out.
Yeah, it is for sure. All right, we'll finish up the Week 5 preview with Notre Dame at Duke, and it's a similar situation to what we just discussed with Ole Miss. Can Notre Dame peel themselves up off the mat and play a Duke team who, I mean, this team's good. If you're not paying attention, start, because Mike Elko is building something in Durham. Riley Leonard, it's crazy to say Duke might have the better quarterback here. Legitimately might have the better quarterback in this matchup. And Sam Hartman is awesome. So Duke's physical. Duke is fast. They actually have athletes to compete. I'm wondering what Notre Dame's headspace is coming in. Now, was that kind of come to Jesus moment? Hey, we screwed up. We have to face the fan base and by the coaching staff, I should say, this is our fault. And we're does that refocus them? Oh gosh, we can't lay a stinker now or else we're going to have our heads on a stick. Or is it still kind of man, this sucks. And the players kind of go out there and they lollygag a bit and Duke jumps all over them. I can't wait for this one.
Would this be the biggest, I guess, never mind. I was going to say, would this be the biggest win for the Duke football program that you can remember? But beating Clemson was pretty good. And that was only a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to, jump on that. Duke is awesome. This was a team preseason I was super high on. You can go back and listen to that if you want to. We're, pretty deep in the season now, so it might not do you any good. All the points still stand. Well coached, really good quarterback, way more athletic and physical than people thought they were going to be. I mean, week 1, the ball bounced their way a couple times against Clemson, and it might not on other weeks. Those 2 red zone fumbles completely changed the complexion of the game, obviously. And if those are, if that's a different Saturday, they recover those, Clemson, and they go on to win the football game. If Duke beats Notre Dame here, then I'm ready to say we have a real race in the ACC for who the best team is. Not who's going to have the best record necessarily, but who is the best football team. This is huge, and it's crazy, Brad. I mean, I think not only do I think they can do it, I think they should do it. I don't know if I think that Notre Dame is head and shoulders better to walk into your place and beat you in the biggest game, that you're going to ever play for most of these guys.
Wow. That's quite a statement. Listen, Notre Dame's still Notre Dame, and I know people love to kind of, thumb their nose at them and shit on them a bit here, but they got some athletes now this year. That offensive line is huge. I wonder if that's a different equalizer, because last year it didn't feel like they had a lot of that same size that we've seen with Notre Dame. And, they lost to Marshall. They lost to teams they shouldn't have. And this year, I think that offensive line and defensive line might just be an equalizer that keeps them in even when things aren't going well. So, like Tyson said, this is a really good Duke team. Mike Elko is an awesome head coach, great defensive mind. Like, will they be able to take what Ohio State did and apply it to what they can do here and really slow down that offense? I'm excited to see that. So, Tyson, we got to get into money-making time. And listen, guys, I'm not ducking. I am not ducking this. I was absolutely horrendous last week. 3-8 for me. Tyson is really the only reason why this thing's
so funny. It looks so funny with your 11 picks and my 4. I'm slacking, or maybe you're going too many.
No, that's what I was thinking. I think I need to take a page out of your book, because our play of the week's hit Penn State. That's been a moneymaker for us here. And you hit Texas 14.5. That wasn't even close as they stomped Baylor. Florida State, I kind of want to do a half red, half green for both of us here, because Clemson should have won that football game. We were both wrong on Oregon State -2.5. And then NC State for me didn't show up. Clemson, obviously, that loss. That Auburn game was absolutely sickening. I can't believe they had so many chances to cover the spread. They were literally in Texas A&M's opponents, or they're literally in Texas A&M territory the entire game, but they couldn't freaking throw the football. That was hard to watch. That's happening at the same time as Clemson, by the way. Like, I had a major meltdown. Like, I absolutely lost my mind. Ole Miss, Alabama, couldn't get that one home because the offenses sucked. How about South Alabama losing outright as a 50? They didn't lose outright, I don't think, but 15.5 point favorites, really? And then Southern Miss. Tyson. Freaking Butch Jones was crying on the sideline 3 weeks ago, and Southern Miss lost outright? Really? So that was fun. And then Arizona, they couldn't get home either, playing Stanford. That was fun. But at least I got James Madison in Oregon in my play of the week for 311. Tyson, now on the year, I'm down 10.96 units. It's brutal. You're up 4.12 units. So Tyson's keeping us afloat here. The podcast as a whole is down 6.85 units, and it's my fault. Like, hand up. I don't run from things, right? I'm John Morant, man. I'll run up the chimney into the smoke. So all that means is that we're due. Well, I'm due. I'm due for a good week here. And Tyson, like you said, the strategy is different between you and me. Because once again, I'm not fucking running, man. I'm going 10 plays deep this week on the slate. Let's get it going.
You're a psychopath. You didn't run from the smoke so hard that I feel like you almost dragged that out to the point where I couldn't stop laughing, because it was like, I'm not running from this. And then you went through every game. Oh, that was amazing. That was maybe the best segment we've ever had here. But you have 10 again?
I got 10.
I'm going to let you lead off, because I do not have 10.
Well, so this is happening on Thursday night. So while everybody else is paying attention to NFL football, which we will be as well, we got Western Kentucky -6.5 here. They're at home. I really don't understand why this isn't higher. They're playing a Middle Tennessee State team, Tyson, that just lost to Colorado State, coming off their most heartbreaking loss. And Middle Tennessee State was home. Western Kentucky, like, they were stifled a little bit against that Ohio State defense. They ain't facing that this week. I'm just going to tell you that right now. This is an explosive offense who, if you can get under a touchdown on them, I absolutely love this. So give me Western Kentucky -6.5 as my first play.
That's a good way to lead it off. I like it. I'm going to start here, and I don't know how you feel about this. I got Georgia -14.5 at Auburn. Not impressed at all with Auburn so far this season, and honestly, Georgia hasn't asserted themselves firmly as the best team in college football. I think this is a heck of a stage to do it, going on the road to Jordan Hare. Just based on what we've seen so far this season, I don't imagine that this is the game Auburn finds its offense.
They can't throw.
Yeah.
They wanted Peyton Thorne in the transfer portal, Tyson. He can't throw a pass.
Maybe Georgia should get Jimbo as to like stand out on the field a couple different spots to prevent huge returns. If he's going to be out there, dude, make the tackle, make the play.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, unbelievable. Second play for me, I'm taking Oregon State minus 2.5 on Friday over Utah. So it's 3.5 right now. I'm pissed at myself because it was opened at 2.5 and it got up to 3.5. So I'm going to take it back down under. I didn't want to take the money line that was minus 160 for Oregon State. So I'm just going to bank on the fact they're going to win by a field goal. I was telling Tyson pre-show, if Cam Rising, the quarterback for Utah, is ruled in and this gets under a field goal, I'm freaking double dipping. Like, I think Oregon State, the way you beat them is through the air. Attack their secondary. Utah can't do that. And with Cam Rising back coming off a knee injury, unless they're doing like the Joe Burrow thing where they're just doing quick outs with a second, it's from snap to throw, they're not going to be able to attack it. And so I think Oregon State's going to be able to be physical, and they're going to grind this thing out to the point where they get by on a field goal at home in Tyson, a place that we know nobody wins.
Nobody wins. That's true. And nobody really enjoys visiting. My next one, Brad, this isn't going to hit. This is a heart play for me. This is something I've been looking forward to for 6 months now, probably. And I have the over in the Kansas and Texas football game. I don't think Kansas probably can score enough to get there. I think there's a real world that Texas could drop 40, and then we just need our 3 tuds from Kansas here. But this is a heart play for me, and this is an upside play because if Kansas offense gets rolling, there's few defenses in the country that can stop them. Texas defense has been good. I think they're getting a lot of love right now nationally for what they did to Alabama, and we're finding out every week that goes on that maybe that Alabama offense just isn't what people were talking it up to be going into that game. So to me, I think this might even get to a plus spot here if you wait a little longer, but I'm jumping on it now.
Over 61.5 here, minus 105 here on FanDuel for Tyson's over. My next play, I'm taking Illinois money line at minus 110. Now they're going on the road to face Purdue. This is not the same Purdue team. You know, they lost a head coach. Their new head coach was the old defensive coordinator at Illinois last season. So I think Bielema is going to know a little bit about what they're trying to throw at him. And so I'm just going to take them on the money line. 2 mediocre teams. I think Illinois is the better mediocre team, and they're going to win this game on the road in the Big Ten play.
Kentucky's going to beat Florida. Florida's going into Kentucky to play. Kentucky. Kentucky's look good. These are 2 teams that I think I have the season-long under on both. So maybe I'm cheering for like the longest tie in college football just goes into next week and they cancel the game.
I think you have Kentucky money line.
Over, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You have Kentucky over their win total.
Yeah, okay. Well, then I really need this. So now there's
you do over 7.5.
But I still think Florida sucks. And that's kind of the majority of this. Like, I don't think they deserve to have a number next to their name, and I think that's buoying the price quite a bit.
I was looking at that too. I'm not going to lie to you. So I do like that. I got a little scared because Florida's, these rivalry games in the SEC, sometimes they get wacky. Like, I mean, we just saw that. Florida completely dominated Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like, not many people had that in their bingo card. For me, my next one, I'm disappointed in myself on this number, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm taking Wyoming minus 14.5 at home against New Mexico. Wyoming's been good. And last year, I think, was a little bit of an anomaly, Tyson, where they had a down year in the program because they lost so many kids to transfer portal and graduation. But if you look for the past 3 years, this has been a really hard place to play. They play extremely physical. They make it difficult on you. And we already know Texas Tech went in there and got their ass kicked. It didn't look like on the scoreboard per se, but they got pushed around. And so now New Mexico, little old New Mexico's going on the road in the Laramie, Wyoming. Good luck, baby. Minus 14.5. Let's blow them out. Minus 105 here on FanDuel.
So I think I just figured out part of your cold streak. You're holding on to your priors from some of these teams that you liked preseason that lost to other teams, and then you're betting on the team that beat them going forward instead of just, dude, Texas Tech stinks.
Oh, yeah. That's still a Pac-12 or a Big 12 team, though, compared to New Mexico. You know what I mean? But yeah, true. My priors are all out of whack. You're right. I need to. Well,
because you were so high on Texas Tech. You were so high on
Yeah,
Texas Tech.
Yeah, what an idiot.
I know it sounds like I just went at you a little bit, but
no, you're right. See, that's why I need you back on this podcast, because I got my ass kicked last week, and we need some normalcy here.
I'm talking you out of it. I alluded to this one, Brad. Duke plus 5.5 just feels too good to be true to me. I would have loved 6.5. Obviously, that would have been a way better number. But I think there's a real world that this is a 24-21 football game, 28-24, and I like Duke's chances outright. So I'm going to take him here. You're giving me 5.5 points. I really like that. That's my play of the week, by the way. I probably should have said that, but that's what I got.
There, let me change that for you here. Let me update that. Tyson's pal, baby. Duke. How about that? You see, Tyson hates Duke in basketball, but loves him in football.
I love Duke football. I do.
I'm rolling with your boys here, but we're gonna do a little two-sided action here, because I got LSU Ole Miss over 67.5 in this one. I just, like you said, I think Ole Miss or LSU's offense can carry them in this one, and I think this is a classic game, right? Like, we're like, man, Ole Miss offense sucks. Like, look what they couldn't do against Alabama, and Kiffin's like, hey guys, remember me? Like, my offense is awesome. Like, let's get the attention back on the program. Like, this could be a fireworks show. Like, just explosive plays all over the place. Over 67.5 here. I like that one.
There is no Kool-Aid McKinstry on LSU this year. I think that could really help you. And my last one here, Brad, is very similar to what I did with the Georgia play. Michigan minus 17.5 against Nebraska. Michigan hasn't looked great. I think there's legitimate reasons that some people are super down on Michigan, to the level that you were just down on Ohio State, and I don't think that's fair right now. And I don't. This is the week the talent comes out. That's kind of my read on the board when I'm looking through is Georgia and Michigan both have really good chances to kind of higher profile games and just slap somebody in the face. And I think that this is the week.
I think that could happen. It could definitely happen.
It could not. I'm taking. Too, though.
Well, I'm not on it. No.
No, I said it could not happen too, though.
True. I mean, it feels like somebody was saying Michigan has a handshake agreement where hey, we're not going to embarrass any team this year, so far.
That's true. We'll find out.
That's weird.
If anybody would have a handshake agreement, it'd be Matt Rule. So
true. I'm taking Oregon minus 27.5 on the road at Stanford. Guys, did you just not see what this team did? They just obliterated Colorado. Stanford's in the same class. Same level of athlete in a way. Not, I guess wouldn't necessarily say that, but same level of size, I guess. This lack of size is probably the better term. And when Oregon runs up against that, they dominate. It's too easy for them. They just run through. They can get 10 yards per rush, and at that point, it's going to roll down or continue kind of rolling downhill and snowballing. And yeah, this is a sleepy spot. Really? You think after what you just saw with Dan Lanning, this team ain't gonna be fired up? You did not pay attention to what he was saying. So I like Oregon here. I think this on talent alone, they can blow out Stanford. And so I'm going to take them. And Tyson, I can't believe I'm doing this, man. But I've actually been impressed with the team that we were both down on to start the season. And I'm wondering what you think about this one. But it's mainly because I just really don't like the other team because I think their offense is horrible. But I'm taking Oklahoma minus 19.5 at home against Iowa State.
Yeah. If you're in our chalkboard, which I'll talk about at the end, I took Oklahoma minus 13.5 last week in Cincinnati. So I'm not hating on Oklahoma anymore. I like Oklahoma this year.
I've been impressed with their defense. And this was something we were saying when we did season-long stuff, kind of wait. We need to wait and see because is the Venables thing, is that going to happen this season? We want to see it with our eyes. Listen, they haven't played any good quarterbacks, and they've obliterated bad ones. Iowa State, newsflash, does not have a good quarterback. I can't believe this is under 3 touchdowns. So 19.5 to me is just that's a an eye heart emoji, man. I'm loving this number right here. So Oklahoma at home minus 19.5. SMU minus 23.5. Now I am pissed at them because their offense looked like complete garbage against TCU, which I was shocked about. But Sonny Dykes still a little familiar with SMU, so maybe I could have seen that coming a little bit here. But at home against Charlotte, this is a perfect little bounce back spot for SMU. Charlotte 2 weeks in a row on the road. a team in SMU who wants to make a statement, get that offense rolling again. I think they're going to really put it on Charlotte, and they're going to attempt to blow them out. This one, I'm curious about your thoughts here, but I'm taking App State minus 13.5 on the road against Louisiana Monroe. This is one of those. This is one of those ones where I'm like, man, I know not a lot of people are looking at this like, hey, this is the one I want to be betting. But App State is better than Louisiana Monroe, like 2 touchdowns better according to the books. Obviously, what are you talking about? I think for me, like this is a bounce back spot for App State. Like I believe they just lost or this past week, or they lost the week before. I'm looking that up right now. But I like the offense that they've been doing. This is a team that took UNC to overtime on the road. Yeah, that's right. They lost in Wyoming. So going up there and playing that defense and then going out and playing at Louisiana Monroe, like I think things are going to come much easier for them. They're going to get that offense back on track. Like they've scored 45, 34, 43, and then last week 19. Offense is going to roll. Give me App State minus 13.5. Now, Tyson, to close things out, I know you are absolutely going to love this one. I know it. This is my play of the week, boys. I'm taking Tulane at home. Back to my bread and butter. Team total over 40.5 against UAB. Tulane at home. Michael Pratt is back. UAB has been getting absolutely steamrolled by every single team they face. I love Trent Dilfer. The stuff that he's been saying after games has been absolute comedy. Like, I know people hate him. Like, I don't know, like, what the deal is that. Like, I'm rooting for Trent, but just not in this game. Like,
if Trent Dilfer called out Lou Holtz, how would you feel?
Oh, I like Trent Dilfer a lot better than Ryan Day. So I'll give him a pass on that one. But give me Tulane play of the week team total over 40.5 here. That's all we need is, Tyson, just 6 touchdowns. Is that too much to ask?
Probably not, to be honest with you. I was a little scared of the spread. I didn't even think to look to the team total here. I mean, if you've been listening to the show for the last 2 years, we are a Tulane football podcast.
Definitely. So that's it. That's my 10. Can we get back on track? What do you think? Anything you absolutely hated in there?
I don't know. I mean, you get spread so thin between all you're like in every conference in America. And I'm like,
yeah. I had a really good college football year last year. Maybe that was the anomaly. You know what I mean? Like maybe that was like, well, you were just on that.
It was at a certain point last year. You were just pointing at the board and it was turning green, and so that was fun. But this year it's coming for you. We'll turn it around. This is 10-0 week. Unless you had anything going directly against me. I don't remember. I don't think you did. So I think 10-0 is well attainable. Get you down to just minus points.
If I go 10-0 here, we're back to scratch. Like I need a big week. True. At least just put a dent in this thing and let's start clawing back here. Because, like you said, we got a long way to go.
We'll take 6-4.
And you know what I'm thinking now too? Because I had bad luck going against Imano in college football last year, and I did it again on the board this year. I think that was the stake that drove through my card. Like that was it. Like the gambling gods saw that and was like, "Oh, you thought."
I think we're mano on. Do you have the spreadsheet in front of you of how many win totals we're looking at? Can we do a real quick check-in?
Yeah, I haven't updated it yet, unfortunately. Well, Baylor's dead. I can just go ahead and they're horrible. Kansas, we got a shot there. We're pretty comfortable in the Big Ten. SEC, comfortable-ish. Pac-12, we're going to need some work. And then ACC for me, I mean, Clemson, they're done. My Miami ticket's looking kind of good. Pittsburgh under, ooh, that's going to be good for me. We're really not mano now I'm looking at too much here. The only thing that's really is Florida.
The championship game, we got Clemson and Florida State. We have Big Ten championship. You have Penn State. So
Ohio State.
That'll play out. But yeah, we're pretty lockstep here on almost everything. The only one that I'm really hating when I look at the board, Wisconsin 8.5. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, that's gonna be scary.
Loving where I'm at.
That's not loving where I'm at.
But if you want to know where we're betting, it's in the App Store. It's in Google Play. The name of the app is Chalkboard. You can hop into our group. It's ISWIS. Presents the roundtable bets. it's Brad, myself, a handful of others. We're just in there throwing picks around. People are workshopping ideas or throwing parlays in there or whatever, just kind of sending gifts back and forth basically to commiserate. We had some pain last night. Puka Nakua, 1 reception away from hitting his number and turning our player prop season so far on its head and getting us to some real money there. But we'll be back with more picks like that. Everything you can imagine is in there.
Definitely. And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the show. You know the drill. Come on, smash that MFN like button if you're watching on YouTube. It helps us become more discoverable in their little algorithm that they got going on. And as far as the podcast listeners, rate, review, you know how it is. Give us a 5-star, comment, whatever the case may be if you haven't already. And if you have, go ahead and share that with your friends so you can help us get the word out about this podcast. We do appreciate all the support you give. And then follow us on socials in the meantime, X, Instagram, TikTok. It's at ISWIS_pod, all the same to keep it easy for everybody out there. Tyson, we're back giving out more picks. It's actually been good for me in the NFL. Thank God. Thank God it's been good for me in the NFL. We're going to be back breaking down the NFL slate. So stay tuned for that. We will talk to you guys then. Peace.